had a tutoring franchise, non-emergency medical transportation company, and real estate. I was doing all that at the exact same time. My journey was coming from Kentucky. All I knew was go to work, come home. I didn't know anything about entrepreneurship. I didn't know anything about individuals owning their own companies. But while I was at Danka, I met several guys that were doing their own thing, that had their own businesses. So they were doing different things, like they had a pressure washing business. In addition to fixing copiers, they had their own businesses on the side. And so it just kind of started opening up my mind. And I was just like, man, I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know people actually did that. I know companies, but I didn't know anything about that. So that kind of set me on my path to wanting to do different businesses. Yeah, just trying to manage all of that. And then slowly, tenants not being able to pay their rents, and I'm like, well, what's going on? And having to file for evictions and having mortgages on the properties and stuff like that. And it was very difficult. It was really very difficult.
I wish that I had known earlier. This too shall pass. You think that you're going through the worst troubles of your life and everything, the sky's falling down. This too shall pass. You think you're on top of the world and everything's going right for you. This too shall pass. Like, nothing lasts forever.
I think for me, which was definitely a paradigm shift, a mindset shift, is that.
All right, we're back for another episode. I am sitting here with Mr. James Beaver. He is a jack of all trades, as he would put it, but he has done a lot of experience, military, Navy veteran as well. So he's got that under his belt. But more specifically, what we'll dig a little bit deeper into today is the wealth of real estate knowledge that he has in investment properties particularly. So if you're interested in investment properties, interested in learning a little bit more about what it might take or what some of the obstacles or hurdles that you might have to look forward to, you definitely want to tune in because James has a little bit to share in that regard. But thank you for taking the time to tune in and enjoy the interview. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, no worries. So where are you from originally?
Originally, I'm from Louisville, Kentucky.
Louisville, Kentucky. So what brought you to Atlanta?
That's a story. So went to the Navy after high school.
Okay.
Was in the Navy for a few years, and then met my wife in Greece. She was in the Navy as well. And so when we decided to get out, we decided we were going to move to Atlanta. And then so that's how we ended up in Atlanta.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And so how long were you in? Thank you for your service, by the way.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. So fellow Navy veteran as well. So if you haven't gotten that, but how long were you in?
4 years.
4 years, okay.
Yes, sir. 89 to 93.
What'd you do in the Navy?
Kind of hopped around a little bit. Originally, I went in as a deck seaman, and then I ended up, like I said, I was in Philadelphia in the shipyards on the aircraft carrier USS Kitty Hawk.
Gotcha.
And then they ended up sending us out to Philadelphia to get on, I'm sorry, not Philadelphia, but to San Diego to get on the Constellation for those of us who had never gotten our sea legs before. So they flew us out to San Diego to get on the Connie. We rode that around the Horn of South America. It took 2 months. And I rode that around, and that was my first time being on the water, and got my shell back in the whole 9 yards. So
nice. So didn't like it enough to do the full 20 though.
No, didn't like it that much. Didn't like it that much. But so started out as a deck seaman, and then when I got on that ship, I did lithography for those 2 months, and then left that, and then got back on the Kitty Hawk, and then transferred. I actually had a surgical procedure. And then I transferred from the Kitty Hawk over to the USS Detroit. So I was still, because the Detroit was in dry dock. Okay. And so the Kitty Hawk was pulling out, so I transferred to another ship after I had my surgery. And then while I was on that ship, then I struck out to be a signalman.
Okay.
Yeah. So
nice.
Hopped around a little bit.
And lithographers, that's something that they've they have done away with.
And Sigma
now.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, a lot of those rates they don't have anymore. I know the lithographers, the JOs or the journalists, the PHs or the photographers' mates all got combined into the mass communication specialists, which is what they have now. And they kind of hold down the print shop on the ship and taking the photos, the videos, writing the print stories and everything. So everything's kind of just changed from I guess when we were in, and I'm not that far separated, but
Yes, sir.
So, did you go from the Navy straight into real estate?
No, that was a long path. So, left the Navy, came to Georgia, went to DeVry, got an associate's degree in electronics, finished college, started working with Xerox, service agency for Xerox, fixing copy machines.
Okay.
So I fixed copy machines for service agency for Xerox. Did that for a few years. A couple things changed. Ended up leaving there. Went and worked with a company called Danka, and fixed copies for them for a while. And then I ended up, before I left Danka, I ended up buying into a tutoring franchise. So I had a tutoring franchise, and then I started my real estate investment career at that time. So I had a tutoring franchise, non-emergency medical transportation company, and real estate. I was doing all that at the exact same time.
Jack of all trades.
Master of none.
Nice. So, what year was this when you were starting out in real estate and everything?
Probably around 2004, 5 time frame. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Good time to, I guess, get financing really easily and everything like that.
It was definitely a different time.
Yeah. Fog in the mirror. You could you could get a lot. So tell us about that journey though, with when you decided to start getting into real estate. I mean, did you have a primary residence that you decided, okay, I'm gonna buy a different home and just rent this out, or were you intentional on, no, I'm gonna buy a property specifically for the purpose of renting?
So my journey, sorry about that. My journey was coming from Kentucky. All I knew was go to work, come home. Mm-hmm. I didn't know anything about entrepreneurship. I didn't know anything about individuals owning their own companies. But while I was at Danka, I met several guys that were doing their own thing, that had their own businesses. So they were doing different things, like they had a pressure washing business. In addition to fixing copiers, they had their own businesses on the side. And so it just kind of started opening up my mind. And I was just like, man, I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know people actually did that. I know companies, but I didn't know anything about that. So that kind of set me on my path to wanting to do different businesses and stuff like that. And then I think just somewhere along the way, I came to real estate kind of came in my view. And so I was like, okay, well, let me try my hand at being a real estate investor. And I didn't know anything about it at all, but I knew somebody who was a friend, and she was the wife of a friend, a family friend of ours. Mm-hmm. So she was getting into investing, and so she kind of like took me under her wing and was kind of showing me the ropes of stuff like that. And so that's kind of how I got started in investing. And so we were in our first house. We already owned our primary residence at the time, and then I started slowly trying to figure out how to pick up additional properties after that.
How easy was that?
It was a different time.
Yeah, no, I know it was. So for those of you who don't know, the mortgage industry looked very different back in before 2008.
Yes.
It was a lot of no doc loans, which are no documentation required loans. So you didn't have to provide income documentation or anything like that to be able to get a house, which is where the term came. You know, if you could fog a mirror, basically, if you had a pulse, it was like, okay, you could get a loan. Mm-hmm. There was also a lot of predatory lending that happened at that time as well, with interest-only loans and, you know, high interest rate loans. People that were, I guess, got caught up kind of in the wrong type of situation. Yeah, it was the wild, wild west of lending, essentially.
Yes.
So you get into investment property, building up a portfolio and everything. Mm-hmm. And then, '07 comes or '08. I know it was building up into that point, but take us through that. What was that like?
Stressful, because remember, I'm doing the investment properties, and I had the non-emergency medical transportation company and the tutoring company. So I'm trying to manage and handle all of these at the exact same time. And
you were managing these yourself? You didn't have a property management company, or?
I managing them myself.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and just in different locations and stuff. So not all in the same place and stuff. And so, just trying to manage all of that. And then slowly, tenants not being able to pay their rents, and I'm like, well, what's going on? And having to file for evictions and having mortgages on the properties and stuff like that. And it was very difficult. It was really very difficult and stuff. And then being on the front end of that, because the people that I'm starting to have conversations with weren't feeling the effects of some of those things just yet. And so, it ended up getting real bad. It got to a point where I ended up having to file bankruptcy and stuff like that. So I had to file bankruptcy. And even when I was having the conversation with the bankruptcy attorney, she had no clue because it was so new and so fresh. I was talking to my tax advisor, my accountant at the time. He was like, what are you talking about? What's going on? And but years later, he's like, man, yeah, I remember when you was first one that was telling me about that. It was tough, man. It was tough.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so.
And so in '08, I was coming out of college. It was like I graduated a semester early. So instead of, I did the 3.5 years and got my bachelor's. And was coming out of college, and it was a rough time to be coming out. You're trying to get a job, but no one's hiring because no one has money to pay employees because the country's going through all this stuff. And me not knowing any of that, because you're kind of shielded from all of that when you're a kid, and even when you're in college, you're not really in the workforce, and you don't own houses or anything. So it was an interesting time to kind of just be exiting, I guess you could say, the college and getting into the workplace. But I was able to get some jobs as working in production and doing gigs here and there, but nothing as like an actual employee or anything like that. So
Okay.
So when you I guess post '08, you go through all of the issues with, that everybody went through in the Great Recession. I mean, that was a big housing crisis that everybody likes to look back and point to, even though we're about 16 years removed from that.
I know.
Now.
It feels like it's yesterday, too, bro. It feels like yesterday.
Yeah, I was like, man, it was so long ago. But so you get removed from that, and then do you immediately start trying to jump back into real estate? Is there a little bit of time in between, or?
Yeah, no. So what happened was, so I ended up filing bankruptcy in 2007. And then in 2008, February 2008, matter of fact, I ended up going back to work, because I think what I kind of left out was that I ended up leaving fixing copiers and went out and just started doing the entrepreneurial things to the best of my ability. Still didn't know exactly what all I was doing, but trying to figure it out on the fly. But I ended up going back into the workforce back in 2008 because bankruptcy. I had all that stuff on my credit, couldn't get new housing or anything. Luckily, when we filed, we were able to keep the house because we had ended up moving into another house in 2003. And so when we moved into the other house in 2003, they allowed us to keep that property and the cars that we had, because I had already paid off the cars, didn't have any notes on them, but they weren't high-end vehicles, so they didn't take, the bankruptcy court didn't take those. They allowed us to keep those things.
Oh, nice.
Right? And so I worked from 2008 up until 2020 when COVID hit. But during that time frame, for me, it was a rebuilding period. It was getting my credit back together, getting my finances back together, increasing my my income once again and stuff like that, to be able to jump back out there one day to start investing in real estate. And so that's what I did from like 2008 to 2020.
Okay. So you started back, you actually got back into the real estate game in 2020, or?
No, so what I did was, I think it was in, I want to say 2017, 18 timeframe, because I ended up getting my license, my real estate license, in I think like December of 2016, and then 2017 started working with buyers and sellers and stuff like that. But before that time frame, I was slowly starting to try to pick up more investment properties at that time frame. So it kind of like blended together, me getting my real estate license and trying to learn more about real estate investing and stuff like that, to be able to start picking up more properties and stuff.
So after, everything that happened with '08, I guess, how did you find the motivation, or what made you want to go back to real estate, considering literally the housing market collapsed for just so many people in '08?
Because the way I look at it, that wasn't my fault. I didn't do anything wrong. I mean, it was, we know who it was that did what happened. And it took the country out. So I'm like, it took out a lot, people that had a lot of money, millionaires and stuff like that. So I'm like, yeah, I can get back in it. I can do it again. I just need to rebuild myself and get to a point where I'm able to actually start doing that again.
Oh, yes. And it was a couple different, I guess you could say, entities that played a big role in it. The mortgage industry obviously being a huge one, that were writing bad loans and everything. But if you've never seen the movie The Big Short, have you heard of it or seen it?
I have.
That movie explains very well a lot of what went on, and how, I guess, the powers to be ended up causing what we now look back as the Great Recession.
Yeah.
So, it was definitely some stuff that was going on, and some people that actually benefited from it because they were clued in on it, and were able to profit hugely from shorting all of this stuff that they saw was, heading to a downfall and everything. So yeah. So you get back in real estate and everything, and where are you at now with, are you still looking to continue building up real estate, or kind of just looking to hold and maintain, or?
So I'm really kind of like in a holding pattern right now, kind of deciding whether or not I want to pick up additional properties, or whether I just want to cash them all in, just trying to cash in all my chips and call it a day, and maybe move to another country or what have you. But, I have my investment properties. Right now, they're doing pretty well. I run them all as short-term rentals, mid to short-term rentals. Currently under the Airbnb model, but they come from different avenues. Sometimes they come from other sites and stuff like that as well. But so I'm not doing the traditional 12-month lease type rentals, but it is a little bit more hands-on. But I mean, the income from that is greater than doing straight
12-month leases.
12-month leases. So,
and that's actually what I was going to ask, is how much is it in terms of the hands-on, or the amount of work or effort that you have to put in, since you are managing these?
Well, I mean, it really just depends on the condition of the property, and what aspects of it you want to take on and manage yourself. Because you can be completely hands off and then turn it over to someone else to actually handle all of that. But then you are giving up some of your profit when you do that, because you got to pay somebody to do that. But for me, because I have them in different cities right now, and so, but they're not far enough that I can't drive to them. I don't have to get on an airplane and get to them and stuff like that. So I do go and check on them from time to time. But as long as you can get the right type of cleaners, and then get the right type of handyman to do certain things that you can't do, it can run pretty smoothly. So it's not going to be that labor intensive, but also depends on how much you want to invest into it, because I want to make sure that when people come into my properties that they're trying to leave 5-star reviews and stuff like that, which doesn't always happen. Nothing is perfect. You're going to have issues from time to time, and nobody's perfect. And that's another thing that I found out as well. It doesn't matter where you have your properties. People are going to be people, whether they come from Section 8, whether they come from a workforce, whether they come from wherever, people are going to be people, and you don't know who's going to be in your property as much as you try to screen them until the situation presents itself and stuff like that. So I like it. I still enjoy it.
Have you ever done fix and flips, or have you ever done long-term long-term rentals in terms of the 12-month lease?
I have. I actually started out that way, when I was doing the investing back in the 2004-5 time frame, because that was way before Airbnb was over in the area. So I was doing Section 8. I had straight rentals and stuff like that. So yeah, I've done it that way, but I haven't done any fix and flips and stuff. Yeah, there's a blank spot in my brain when it comes to trying to figure out, okay, well, what exactly should I have to go here on this wall right there? So I struggle with that just a touch. So
gotcha. Everyone that I have actually spoken with that has done fix and flips, they tell me about how difficult it's been, how stressful it is, because a lot of them are under hard money loans, and those hard money loans come with high interest rates. So they're trying to get the work done as soon as possible. But if there are delays with construction, or once you get into the gutting of the house and changing it, and you find there's more issues behind the walls that you didn't see, and now it's even more money on top of the interest that you're already getting charged. And then now when you finally get the house up, now you got to find a buyer that's going to pay enough for you to at least break even, if not make a profit. And with all the stress that you put in and all that sweat equity or whatever it might be, you're really wanting to make a profit off of that thing, because you probably got bills and other stuff you got to pay so you can get your next investment property. It's just so much of it. And then it's funny, those same investors, when I would talk to them and they're like, oh, you've never done, I was like, I've never done fix and flips. They're like, oh, you should try it. I was like, after listening to you all, I'm not at all interested in having anything to do with fix and flips, because that just sounds like a stress that I don't need. And I'm just looking for a way to not say make money easily, but at least do something that I enjoy more.
I never really wanted to. I mean, I think at one small point, I thought about doing fix and flips. But like I say, I guess I'm glad that I have that little blank spot in my head where I'm like, I don't know what to put in here to be able to sell to the end user, because you have to take all that into consideration as well. Because you can fix a property up to be able to sell, but I think a lot of times people, I'm not going to say a lot of times, sometimes people put too high end of finishes in the property with the expectation of being able to recoup the costs of what they put into the property. So if they over improve the property for the area, and the area isn't really able to sustain the improvements that they put into the property, then they're going to lose out. And that's not an area that I actually wanted to be in. If anything, I would fix but do buy and hold. I wouldn't fix it to actually flip it, because the other piece of the fix and flip thing that I found out is that you always have to go out and kill something again, because you've got to fix it, flip it, get the money, and then turn around and go find you another one. Fix it, flip it, get your money, turn around and go do it again. Buy and hold, I mean, once you get your foundation set, I mean, you got residual that's going to be coming in indefinitely. And you make money in multiple ways by still owning and holding the property and stuff like that. The tax benefits and the cash flow, as long as it's positive cash flow and stuff like that. So you make more money, I believe, by holding the property versus doing the fix and flip. So I didn't really want to do it that way.
So how do you determine whether or not a property is worth your investment?
I mean, you got to do the comps on it. You have to look and see what the comparables are in the area, and see whether or not it's worth putting money into it. You know, as an investor, you make your money when you buy the property. So once you buy the property, you've got to be able to make sure that you've made enough money from the buy, so that when you do put money into the property, that you're not, and again, that you're not over putting too much money into the actual property or what have you. But you still have to do your due diligence as far as assessing the property, the work that it's going to need, the time it's going to take for you to be able to turn that around by speaking with your contractors and things of that nature. Are you going to need to pull permits? To what degree of the rehab do you need to do for this particular property and stuff like that? So you got to do an overall assessment and stuff like that. You can buy turnkey. You just won't make as much money on the front end. You'll make it long term if you hold it long enough, but you won't make a lot of money on the front end if you buy turnkey. But that is an investment strategy as well.
Okay. So looking back at your journey from, through real estate and everything, if you could go back and do it all over again, what would you change? Would you still have acquired the properties you acquired back in '08, or would you have waited and,
I don't think there's much that I would change at all. I don't, because I think all of it was a learning experience, one way or another.
Would you say that there are more properties that you have purchased that you wish you hadn't purchased, or more properties that you missed out on that you wish you would have acted on?
Yeah, there was one property that I acquired that I wish I had not acquired because it needed a lot of work, very extensive rehab it was going to take for that particular property. And when I acquired that property, it had an occupant already living in the property. I mean, it was like really, really bad off, and people were actually staying in the property. Met and talked with them, and they said, yeah, we're going to stay, or whatever the case. And no sooner than I bought it, they dipped out. And I was like, now I got to try to figure out how to get some money to put into this thing. So I acquired it with the pretense that they were going to stay, and I wouldn't have to put money into it right then and there. And so that, they kind of pulled the rug out from under me a little bit. But yeah, so that was one that I really wish I hadn't acquired at that time. So
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Were there a lot of ones that you like, I missed the boat on that one, I should have picked up those properties? And the reason I ask is because my dad's a real estate broker. He's been in it for, I think, about 44 years now.
Okay.
That he's been doing real estate, still grinding on the, selling, buying homes and everything like that. And I have, just over the decades heard him talk about, houses that he's purchased and what he paid for them. Some of these houses, $20,000, $15,000, $30-something thousand. Houses that he sold to other people that he sold for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, especially coming out of the '08 recession, where you just had a lot of cheap properties that you could just pick up 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath homes for like $60,000, $70,000. And I remember one of the things that he had said previously was, oh man, I sold that house for like $23,000. I sold that house for $30,000. I should have just bought it. Because now those homes are in like communities that were $300,000, where they're like $300,000 homes. I mean, talking about 10xing your housing value literally in a matter of like 15 years. That just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're doing good if in, 16 years, 18 years, you can double the value of your property. But going from buying a home at 36 and then it being worth 360 like 15, 20 years later. So didn't know if you had a similar experience with any of those properties where it's like, you know what, I should have bought those, or do you kind of just like not even look back at the ones you missed and just keep on moving forward?
Yeah, I try not to look back at that. I mean, human nature, we think about that from time to time. Like, like, wow. But, I try not to focus on that. I can tell you this quick story. I don't know how much you know about this at all, but back when that housing market was crashing and stuff like that, and people were underwater with their the mortgages versus the property value, there was a time when people were just like walking away. They were just walking away from their houses. There was a time when I was just like, babe, we should just walk away. We should just walk away. We should need to just and call it a day. I mean, because the value just wasn't there, and you upside down in your mortgage and stuff like that. And I was really, really considering, and I probably would have did it, but we didn't. And now, we're actually on the other side of that. So the house is actually worth more. So I'm glad that that's something that I didn't actually do at that time. So, but
I heard I was actually watching a video on YouTube where Tom Hanks was talking with a group of gentlemen, and he was saying, you know what, I wish that I had known earlier, and I'm paraphrasing what he was saying, but this too shall pass. You think that, you're going through the worst troubles of your life and everything, you know, the sky's falling down, this too shall pass. You think you're on top of the world and everything's going right for you, this too shall pass. Like, nothing lasts forever.
Yeah.
Everything is eventually going to transition into the next phase, or you're going to enter into the next chapter of life. And so you just have to go into things with that mindset of, you know what, I'm going to do the best in terms of making the moves that I can make right now, and understanding that this is going to eventually transition and move into something else, and trying to prepare for whatever that next thing is. So
yeah, you're right. I mean, this too shall pass. I say it all the time. I mean, nothing lasts for forever.
No,
Yeah,
not at all.
That's what I say. Nothing lasts for forever. So as long as you keep it moving, and just know that within you, you have the ability to come out on the other side. It's just the drive in you, just to say that, like you say, this too shall pass, nothing lasts for forever, and on the other side of this, things are going to be okay.
Okay. So one question I'd like to kind of round things out with, what would you do if failure were not an option?
If failure were not an option?
If failure is not an option, meaning that you were guaranteed to succeed, what would you do if you could not fail?
You mean, which bank would I rob? Failure is not an option.
Failure is not an option. You're going to succeed.
Hey, I'm going to get that money. I'm going to get that money. Denzel said that, didn't he? Say, I'm going to get that money.
Oh, yeah.
If failure was not an option, I mean, go hard or go home. You know, just go hard or go home. There's not one specific thing that I could attach that to, but it would be everything that I would attach that to. If failure is not an option, just get up, go do it, and just let the chips fall where they may.
No particular, I guess, field that you'd be working in, but just going hard in whatever?
I think for me, which was definitely a paradigm shift, a mindset shift, is that once I started meeting the guys when I was fixing copiers, and they had their own businesses, and then once it was very nerve-wracking for me to turn in my letter of resignation at my job to say, I'm not coming back. I'm going to go out here and try to do this entrepreneurial thing. It was very nerve-wracking because that's all I knew. Like, I've been working since I was 16, started making pizzas and delivering pizzas for Pizza Hut. You know, I mean, I've been working and driving since that time frame, and that's all I knew. That's what my father did. That's what I saw him do. It's just he went to work. He didn't teach me about entrepreneurial thing. I didn't have, somebody in my life, in my circle, that I ever saw that were doing their own thing like that. And so, I don't know, man. I just go hard or go home is just my motto, my mantra.
I think that, and I've heard this said before as well, but most people will end up regretting the things that they did not take a chance on rather than the things that they took a chance on and failed at.
True.
And so with me, I kind of take that to heart, especially when I'm hearing people that have many more years of experience than what I have, saying things like that and knowing where I'm at right now. Just being, mid-30s, mid to late 30s or whatever. It's like, you know what, I don't want to play it safe, so to speak. Like, I played it safe and safely arrived at retirement or whatever. It's like, but you never took the chance. You never took and what if you had stepped out on faith and you were able to actually succeed at that thing that you were endeavoring to do?
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I won't say it keeps me up at night, but it definitely keeps me going.
Yeah.
Is that, I don't want to play it safe anymore. I just want to go for whatever it is that's like, I got this passion, this desire, this thing I want to do. I just want to, let's just go for it. And if I fall flat on my face, then you know what? this too shall pass. I'll
This
pick
too
up the
shall
I'll pick
This
up the
too
pieces.
shall pass.
And,
Nothing lasts for forever.
No.
Even though scrapes heal over.
They do.
Them scrapes and scars, they heal over.
Everything does. And so it's like, you know what, just keep it moving.
Like the young people, what they say, shoot your shot.
Shoot your
You gotta shoot your shot, bro.
Yeah.
You gotta shoot your shot.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, and not a lot of people believe this, but you learn a lot more from failure than you do from success.
I've heard that.
You learn a lot more about yourself during the times that you fail than if you succeed. Because if you succeed, you're actually more afraid to fail. If you're constantly succeeding, you're even more afraid to fail because you've never felt what it's like to fail and to be able to know that you're strong enough to come back from that.
Have you ever heard of Myron Golden?
No.
Okay, so he is a business coach that teaches business according to biblical principles. And he tells a story, he's told it many times, where when he first got started in, I guess you could say entrepreneurship, he was selling insurance. And you got to go out, you got to do sales presentations and everything. And he worked for 18 months before he made his first sale. And during that whole time, you know, he heard a lot of, you know, why are you still doing it? You know, it's been 6 months, it's been a year, you know, you haven't made a single sale. It was 18 months before he made his first sale. But then after he made his first sale, you know, I think it was like over the next 9 months or 12 months, I have to go back and actually hear the story to get the actual time frame. He went from, you know, being at the bottom of the company in terms of sales to being like the top salesperson. But one of the things he says is he learned all the ways to get a no, essentially, from people. He just kept changing up his presentation, changing up the platform, working on getting better. And even though what he was doing wasn't working for him, it was working on him. He was getting better to become the person that now, hey, I know how to get the yeses. I know how to do sales because I know all the ways to get a no. 18 months of just hearing no's. So I've tried it all. I can be great at this now because I'm just so comfortable with it. Yeah. And I think a large part of it is, just being willing to fail. I know that's one of the things that has caused me to tread a little bit more lightly than what I would have otherwise felt, is like just the caution of
the fear of failure.
The fear of failure, and then what the ramifications of that would be in terms of, I got the family with the kids, and it's like, I want to take calculated risks because I don't need nobody sleeping outdoors or nothing, but
Understood.
So, trying to measure those calculated risks where it's like, okay, we got some stuff here that we can move over, but we're also in a very uncertain time right now. And it's like, just not knowing which risk to take. And then you try to listen to what other people are doing, but everybody doesn't necessarily know what the best way to go is, because if they did, everyone would do it, and then it wouldn't be the best way anymore because it's not going to work for anyone. Yeah. So
comfort can be a killer of progress and success. Being comfortable where you are because you're not hungry. If you're not hungry, why do you need to get up and go eat? You know what I mean? It's like, if you don't have a hunger to be able to go out and do X, Y, Z, what's your motivator? What's driving you to be able to go out and do X, Y, Z? You know what I mean? So you understand you get to the point where it's like, okay, I've got my house, I've got my car, I've got my wife, I've got my kids. It's like, you know what? I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right. Why do I need to go hard again? Why do I need to continue to go hard? Like, what's the reason? What's the rationale? What's my motivation to be able to do that? And you have to find a new motivation and a new reason to be able to go hard. That's what I have to do with myself from time to time. It's like, what's my new why? And I think now for me, it's my extended family at times now, where it's like, hey, you know what? I want to do more, not just for me, not just for my immediate family, but for my extended family. So let me, roll up my sleeves and go hard.
I've heard that very same thing with the, just kind of entering that, that new phase of why or whatever, because you have people that do, and this is another thing that I've heard from Myron as well, and I've heard from some other individuals as well, where you reach a certain level of success or comfort, and you get to this point to where it's like, you know what, I've arrived. I'm at that level where it's like, you know what, I'm good. I can kind of kick my feet back and everything else. And so you have people that, let's say if it's monetarily, they make $1 million in a year, and they're like, I'm good. I've arrived. But then you have other people that, the numbers shrink down, but a few people that are like, no, there's another level beyond this that I can go, and they end up making 5 and 10 and 15 million. There are some individuals that, if you're talking about properties or you're talking about something else, they get a couple rental properties, and those rental properties are able to pay for their lifestyle, and it's like, I'm good. And then you have some other individuals that are like, no, I can do more, and I can, with the more that I have from what I'm doing, I can help more people, or I can serve more people, or I can just build up more that I can pass along to my children and their children, and build that generational wealth that way. I mean, there's so many different reasons that people do the things that they do, but I definitely have heard that a lot with this things that stop people from continuing on with whatever it is in the direction that they're looking to go in.
Yeah, it's just like you say, the next why. What is your why, and then have that out in front of you. So that's your reason why you're doing the next thing.
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking the time to chat with me and let us have this conversation and everything. It's been greatly beneficial. So thanks a bunch. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
And that's all we have for you. Thank you for tuning in. Take care. Be blessed, and we'll see you in the next episode.